I live in a world where I can have conversations about ETs and UFOs and the government and everything that's going on every day. And it fills my heart and my life with so much joy. But I know that for many of your viewers around the world that's not the case. And the only thing I can say to them people is just keep talking. If you believe in it, share it.
Yep. Don't be scared.
If you believe in it, share it.
Then
Don't give a shit about what people think,
norm.
you know?
Yeah.
Because if we don't share it, it's not going to get out there. It's just not.
Welcome to Far Out with Faust, everybody. I am Faust Chicho, and I am joined by an incredible woman, young woman, Serena DC. You may have heard of her. You've probably seen her. I mean, if you are watching what I'm watching and into the things I'm into, then you've definitely seen her. She's an Emmy-nominated documentary filmmaker. She's a director. She's a producer and a talk show host. She's starred in titles Beyond the Grave, My Transparent Life, We Are Not Alone, Contact, the CE5 Experience, which I was just watching, Dream Life, and Hollywood Disclosure, which is in its second season, I believe. She has upcoming feature films, Interview with the Extraterrestrial, and that stars one of my very first guests, Daryl Anka, who is better known as Bashar. Serena is a published author of 2 books with a third on the way, and she's world-renowned for her relationship and personal transformation expertise. Aside from her work in the entertainment industry, she's also the owner of a production company called Alcium Media, and it's a distribution company as well, Alcium Pictures, and a branded content agency, Brand Sparkle. I love the names you have chosen. Thank you so much for beaming in, Serena.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today. You're actually really good friends with one of my best friends and my producing partner, Michael Mazzola, and he told me to say hi to you this morning.
Oh, I love him. He's fantastic.
He loves you so much.
You'll have to tell him I said hi if he doesn't watch this. Yeah. Wow. So it's crazy how worlds collide. I'm a producer. I'm an act. Well, I was an actor first and foremost. My love comes from the stage and then the films, but then I became a film producer because one of the best ways to get on bigger stages is to be in bigger films these days.
Right.
And when I took the spiritual path, all these incredible things started to happen, and here I'm speaking to you, who you are still very much plugged into that industry, and yet you are making these incredible documentaries, doing some really wonderful work in media. So I'm so excited to talk to you.
You too. I'm excited to talk to you as well and learn a little bit more about what you do, because I know that you, like me, you've kind of gone down the rabbit hole, and once you've seen the things that we've seen, it's pretty hard to come back, right? It
is. So you have to, your worlds are going to marry one way or the other, just like the tuning fork. They're going to start to align,
synchronize.
That's right. But so when did you? And maybe this is me speaking. For me, it kind of coincided with the more spiritual journey that I started to take. The more I was exposed to this and meditation and these things, and everything about my perspective started to open up. And I'm wondering if you had a moment or if it was a process. How did that happen for you?
So when it comes to ETs, I was always a believer, always obsessed, always fascinated. Watched every single movie, every single documentary 1,000 times. Couldn't get enough content, and every night I would look out at the sky and pray that I would see something. And I never saw anything at all. For 40 years, I never saw anything. And then one day I watched a little movie called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. It was COVID, lockdown, watched this movie, and I was introduced to Dr. Stephen Greer into CE5. I'm like, this is cool. You can actually try and initiate contact with ETs yourself. Okay. So I went out to the countryside. My partner at the time, he had a farm. And so we went out to this farm and I'm like, I'm going to try this really weird thing. Just go with it, babe. You know. And so I did the reverse Google search version of CE5, where you sort of
Right.
try and show the ETs where you are on this planet. Anyway, we opened our eyes after I'd done the meditation, and we looked at each other and we laughed because we were like, "Wow, two idiots standing in a field in the middle of the night." Trying to communicate with aliens. But then they communicated with us. So I saw the most profound UFO experience that I've ever had. The first was the best. I've always been chasing it ever since.
Wow.
But an enormous sheet of silver plasma appeared in front of our eyes and just undulated across the sky. It lasted for about 20 to 30 seconds. It was just so prolific, you know. And after it was gone, we looked at each other and we were like, holy fucking shit, it's real, it's
Yeah.
real. That was like
Wow.
so incredible. And so I was blessed, you know. I was already in television and things like that, and when you're in TV, you know, you get the blue tick on your Instagram, and you I guess you have a little bit of a better chance of communicating with a celebrity if you reach out to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, I'm going to reach out to Dr. Stephen Greer and just say, hey, you know, I just did CE5.
Yeah.
Do you want to be on my show, Hollywood Disclosure? Can I interview you? And he replied.
Yeah.
And then we hopped on a phone call for 3.5 hours, and we became fast friends. And my entire career in this genre was born from there, from that moment. So it's crazy. It's crazy
That is incredible. I'm
how
so,
there, you know, a
yeah.
lot of people don't realize. Well, a lot of people believe in God or religion or the universe or, you know, some
Yeah.
omnipotent power. I never did up until that moment, because now I feel like I'm guided by them somehow. Like that they didn't just appear for shits and
Yeah.
giggles. You know what I mean? Like I think
I've
they
been
wanted
thinking that
me.
the moment you said that.
Yeah, I really think they wanted me to get on this path. So I'm just
Yeah.
submitting to it, and here we are.
That is so amazing. So what you just said was you really, you didn't consider yourself a spiritual person. You certainly weren't a religious person. That's kind of what I was getting. And then you had this experience, this interaction, this communication in many ways, you know,
Right.
and I mean, it was an exchange, and it's changed your perspective about reality and,
Hmm.
you know, the universe and God and kind of what we're doing here. That is a remarkable moment in your life. That's wow.
Yeah. Well,
It's so crazy.
once you really accept the fact that we're not alone, it does change your life, because you realize that any goals that you had for yourself are no longer just earthbound. You know, there's other goals, there's other things to look
Yeah.
at and other things to consider. So it really makes your world so much larger, and it just opens up so many questions. You know,
Yes. So
about
many questions
so
about what
many
else.
different
Yeah.
things. You know,
You know, how we got here and, you know, what's happened. You know, how comes we know we've been on the planet for a lot longer than we have knowledge of
right?
what we were doing here. So what happened? You know, what happened? So many
Who are we?
questions.
Where did we come from? And
Right.
most importantly, why? Why were we blessed with sentience? You know,
Yes.
why are we the ones that, you know, there's over 1 million different species on this planet. Why were we the ones that rose to the top and built the buildings and created the flying machines? Like, why was
Yeah.
that us and not the hippopotamus or the dolphins? You know, like
Right.
that kind of
And
stuff is kind of crazy.
and the materialist world we live in will tell you that that was all just a fluke, which
Yeah,
statistically, the materialist should be able to read how that statistically that is impossible. You know
I
that
know.
we are an accident, but at the same time, they'll tell you that it could be nothing else because we live in this world that is very much hypnotic to our five senses and
Can I ask
nothing
you a
else.
question? Can I ask you a
Sure.
question? Where do you think we came from?
So I believe that we are the product of well over a dozen, probably over 20, very advanced, like some billions of years ahead of us, civilizations who had this profound and wonderful idea about what if, hear me out, what if we took a little bit of, you know, and there's, you know, they're sitting at this, maybe they're not sitting. Maybe they're
Hovering.
yeah, maybe they're hovering, but they're all in attendance. And what if we took and found a way to combine all of our DNA to create a species, and then we could usher it through a physical existence, and it would have, at least latently, the best of all of us, and this would create peace among our people, among our civilizations, greater peace. We would have a child together. We can put it in a safe place, Earth, beautiful, gorgeous, the middle of nowhere in the Milky Way, and we could shepherd these beings, and of course everybody's got a great idea and a great plan until they get hit in the face. So, but the things didn't exactly play out, I think, the way they imagined. But I believe that we are the product of, and this is all, when I say this, I mean, it's like some of these beings are so advanced that, you know, they're working directly with source, with God. They have, a line right to the creator. And it's not like this was like, what are you doing? This was an idea that these beings had. We live in a universe of free will. They had great intentions, and that's how we got here. And that's why, the moment we start playing with weapons of mass destruction and splitting the atom, the parents had to step in. And you can let your parents play. You have a child. I know you have at least one child, so you can let them play all day. But when they start hurting others and hurting,
Need to
you have to
intervene.
step in, at least to a degree. And I feel like that's part of the reason why we've seen such a huge increase in activity and presence, and since we started playing with atomic weapons.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful idea, and I'm someone that's privileged to talk to everyone in our industry. Being an interviewer and a filmmaker, and I think that what you're suggesting is definitely a variation of what everybody else
Mm.
is kind of thinking. And sometimes people say, well, that's just, an idea that you've had. But to that, I say, well, where do ideas come from? And normally ideas are quite unique to a person. Like if I come up with an idea for a movie,
Right.
pretty much I'm the only person that came up with that specific idea for that movie on that day, right? But there's millions of people that are thinking the way that you think. And
Mm-hmm.
when you articulate that story to me, I was watching you, and you were in a dreamlike state, and you were in your mind, and you could see it, right? You could see it because I could see it. I could see what you were
Yeah.
explaining. And so to me, it's almost like there's this hive mind, this hive where this knowledge exists. And we need to stop dismissing the fact that it's just amusing. It can't be. We can't all be thinking that same
Right.
thing unless there's some merit to it, right?
There's absolutely something to that statement. Consciousness is, as Dr. Greer has told you and teaches people, and you understand this, it's non-local.
Mm,
So there's a field that we're all connected to and connecting to. So, and that's like, I do videos like about the 100th monkey effect,
yeah.
about just about the way that consciousness can spread, but even between species, different species besides humans, and I just feel like this part of our past has been kept from us because, well, we're not the first human civilization to have a go at this planet. I
Right.
don't know how we're faring compared to the others. It seems like we're in a little bit of hot water. I hope we can pull it together before they hit the flood button again. But you know what I'm saying? It's
The flood
they're
button.
trying. I think it's an ongoing experiment, and I'm hoping we get it right this time. That would be amazing
See, I
for my
think
children and
would
yours.
you like to know my
Yes,
variation of your
please,
theory?
please.
So I'm pretty much with you for the most part of everything that you've said, like the origin of it all, and getting here. But I feel like they came here with us, and we were together. And there's proof of that when you look at things like, the Egyptian hieroglyphics, and then them
Mm,
back behind that and behind that. We weren't alone for a while, they were with us. But I think they left us. And I feel like they left us in a hurry, or because they had to, or by mistake, right? But we were left
mm,
behind. And why do I think that? I think that because there's so many people in this world. There's 8 billion of us, right? And half of that 8 billion suffer from some form of mental illness, be it depression or anxiety or whatever. And we walk around with this longing inside us, like this feeling of loss, and this feeling of, why am I here, and why don't I belong, and why don't I fit in, and why don't I feel comfortable in my skin,
Hmm.
and so many of us feel that way, right? And so I kind of feel like energetically something happened, this sort of collective hurt, or this feeling of abandonment, um, because it does feel like that. Here today,
Yeah.
gone tomorrow. Like, where is all that history? Why don't we know? And
Right.
just part of me just feels like something happened and they left.
I feel like that is a big part of also the understanding that some of us have come to. You hear stories, and it's so. I think everyone has heard the word Anunnaki, and if you
Yeah,
study ancient Egypt, and you study the words and language, then you know that Anu and all these words and this idea, they come from what little hieroglyphic pictorial history we have from these
mm,
civilizations. We don't have much, but even going from that, there is strong evidence to show that there was um, there was something here with us that we considered high and mighty, that we looked
right,
to. Um, so that part is in. The question is, religions have been born from this. There's all kinds of mythologies, but I do feel like whatever happened, they had to hightail it out of here. You know what I mean? I feel like
right,
because if you look at the pre-Diluvian period and then what came after, there was certainly somebody hit the reset button, and hard, because it seemed like everything that had been accumulating, there was just darkness, and then everyone kind of emerged, and
right,
everything was not what it was before. You have these megalithic structures that are, we still can't explain how they were built. And then, after that point, after that flood, you have like people putting little rocks on top of the huge ones. Like it's
right,
like we can see the difference. Everything was
right.
lost.
It's
So
true.
it's like, what happened? I feel like we were, for our, maybe for our own good, but also who knows the exopolitics involved and why that was. Like, okay,
Well, but then
clearly,
also just like nature, like we are all slaves to Mother Nature, and
yeah,
we, are subject to her whim. I mean, solar flares are something that happen on the sun every single day, and it only takes one to go just that tiny little bit further for one split microsecond, and we're all toast.
yeah,
You know,
or at least
except for
blind.
the Eskimos that are living in Antarctica. They're probably the ones that will propagate like the next round, because they were just that little bit far enough away from the sun to not have been wiped out. It doesn't take much. We've been
No,
really lucky in our lifetime, in the last 100-year cycle, to not see too many terrible
cataclysms.
natural
Yeah,
disasters happen. But I mean, like, I live in LA, and all of us are just waiting
yeah,
for the
the big
big
one.
one. Yeah, the big one. In fact,
Yeah,
April is actually, driving around town. They have those little flags up on
yeah.
light poles. April is Earthquake Awareness Month
Oh
in Los
boy,
Angeles. I know, and
let's get
awareness
everyone's
month is
mind on
teaching
it.
us all about, right, teaching us all about what to do if there's an earthquake.
Oh man,
So you've just got to enjoy life as long
it's
as
funny
you're
you
privileged
said
to
that.
live it.
Oh, absolutely. You got to take it day by day and
Yeah, you
enjoy
do.
what you have. Because they'll try and remind you that doom is right around the corner all day. It's one of the
I know. Like,
ways
how
they get your
negative is
attention.
that? Seriously, like, really, we really need
Not
to
only
put that
that,
up.
but you learn about the power of consciousness. You learn about the power of intention. Then you learn about what happens when more than a few people put their attention on one thing and get, it's like, well, how do we bring about the big one? Let's get everyone
Yeah,
thinking
exactly.
about it.
Let's just manifest it by having 10
You
million
know,
people thinking about it.
my
It's very
God.
true.
But something you said though, about about one solar flare. So that's the other thing that's become clear to me in my studies and my research, is that whatever happened, it seems like everyone agreed they were going to be safer underground, right?
Mm,
I mean,
mm.
there's if you look at the recent work of Graham Hancock, and
Oh my God, in Ancient Apocalypse, I know it's
you know,
unbelievable.
there's and
exactly.
the question is, what were they afraid of, or
Mm.
what was it? The conditions on the surface of the
Yeah, was it
planet.
just necessary? Maybe it was
You
just
know,
necessary.
like we don't have a lot of, at least not that they've allowed to the
Mm.
public. I bet there's a lot more under the ice in Antarctica that
Oh, for
would
sure.
explain things.
Yeah.
Bastards. Yeah. They
Yeah.
better hope the ice doesn't melt. No wonder they're spraying the clouds and shit.
I'm like so intrigued. I'm actually working on a documentary concept at the moment that takes us over to Antarctica. I want to do a dig in Antarctica
Oh my
because
God.
it's all there. It's all there.
I'm gonna send you. I did a solo. I do these solo podcasts where I do like months of research and then I just streamline information for like
Share it.
an
Cool.
hour and a half. I'll send it to you. It's about. I did one
Please.
on Antarctica. It's a
Cool.
popular video. Yeah,
Cool.
but you learn a lot about it. It's like, did you know that Antarctica, a mile under the ice, is a balmy 70 degrees? I bet you didn't realize that you could just, once you got under the ice, you could live comfortably even without a fire, because it's the
Wow.
most active volcanic region on the planet,
So it's
and the
just
ice,
naturally heated. That's
it's
so
naturally
interesting.
heated, and it's a honey, and it's all hollow. It's a honeycomb. You know, technology shows that, people scoff at the idea that the Germans were ushering, technology and people through with their submarines under the ice in Antarctica. And now science is confirming that not only is it hospitable, but it's completely cavernous.
It's
It's
comfortable. Wow.
all
Wow.
cavernous. So,
Wow.
is it really far-fetched that there probably more than one civilization living under there
Well,
now?
it's not just that as well, because, like, people might think, okay, well, why would they go to this snowy area at the top of the earth or at the bottom of the earth? But we need to remember that, like, human history is millions of years long, and that
Hmm.
the continents have shifted. So what the landmass that is now Antarctica could well have been where America, well, I don't know geography,
Yeah.
but it could have been where America was. It could have been in a thawed out, comfortable state and then shifted to that area. So thus taking with it all of the amazing architecture that it
Hmm.
had and then being preserved.
It's a fantastic point, and the ice serves
It's
as
also interesting.
yeah,
I hope I
very
live long
interesting.
enough to be able to, discover something new and unusual myself. Like that,
Yeah,
that's sort of like such a huge goal for me to be able to like, somehow add one line to our history books.
I think that we'll be lucky enough to see it, barring any insanities. I mean, since we're living in such a crazy time, I mean, what? There's so few things that could happen that would really shock me. Like that
Yeah.
would be kind of out of place for the times we're living in. It just seems like pretty much everything's on the table right now
It's true.
between,
I'm making a movie at the moment with Michael Mazzola, your friend.
yes.
It's called Catastrophic Disclosure. I'm not sure if you've heard of that term before. Have you heard that before?
No, but I can kind of infer what it may be about.
Want to
Yeah.
hear about it? Want to learn a little bit
Absolutely.
about it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Michael and I have this mutual friend. His name's Danny Sheehan, and he's a
Oh, I
human
just
rights
had
lawyer.
Danny on. Yeah, I was.
Oh, I love Danny
Yeah,
so much.
I
He's so
love
beautiful.
Danny as well.
So
Yeah.
Danny Sheehan, for those that don't know, is a human rights lawyer, but he works up in Washington. He represented Lou Elizondo and
He's the man.
John Mack back in the day when Project Blue Book was happening, and he's just so entrenched and intertwined and well respected in Washington, DC. Anyway, catastrophic disclosure is a term that's being thrown around in DC at the moment. And what it talks about is the catastrophic impact the government are afraid will happen when they disclose the existence of extraterrestrial life. You see, Danny, I'm sure he's told you and many others, and he's told me that the government are in possession of a lot of
Oh yeah.
information that includes craft, bodies, organic material, not just like a speck, but like
No, like a shitload. How about
material, a
that?
shitload of shit,
Yeah,
right?
crass. Yeah.
Stuff that he's been privy to seeing, maybe not with his own eyes, but all the files and all the pictures and videos and things like that.
Mhm.
And the government have been getting ready to disclose this for a while, but they're afraid of catastrophic disclosure. And what it is they're afraid of how society will turn on them when they are made aware of the fact that the government really did have all of that information and they really were hiding it. Because how do you trust a government that's been lying to you? So we've just finished making a documentary about that. We're rushing it through the edit because we're dying to get it out for everybody to watch. But we basically talk to everybody in DC and they tell us about all of the information that they have and what's being held back and what's coming. And holy shit, it might not happen this year, but in the next couple of years, the government are going to disclose a lot of stuff that will really shift the non-believers' mindset completely. You know what I think is really cool?
What?
10 years ago, if the government came forward and said, Roswell happened, as an example, we got the bodies, we got the craft. I don't know if that's going to happen, but you know what I mean? If that's what they said, I think everyone would freak out. Oh my God, there's aliens, holy shit, what's going on? I think nowadays, if they came forward and said, well, there is a craft, here it is, everyone would watch the news report and be like, I knew there was a fucking craft. I knew it.
Yeah. Or they're fucking lying again.
It's not as cool. It's not as cool as I thought. I thought it would look more like the one on Independence Day, or, this whatever. Yeah. And they would just get on with their day. And
they
that's
seem
the
to
world
do
that we live in right now. But isn't that so crazy that we would literally be like, yep, knew it, assholes. There it is. We're not alone. And they would just move on. And I wish that the government would just recognize how ready we really are,
See, I think that you give the government too much credit. I think that they could care less how ready we are, although the implications of the catastrophe will only go so far as what they believe the net outcome loss will be to their industries. I don't give them any credit whatsoever about caring at all, at least my government, about people, lives, anything like that.
Yeah, I don't mean emotionally. I mean caring to the point where they're going to be like, okay, cool. Or they're going to be like, we're going to overthrow the government. We're going to storm the Capitol. And
they should worry about that anyway, because they're serial liars and they've shown they've got a proclivity to leave bodies in their wake. So, I understand what you're saying, and I agree. What happened during the 2020 health crisis. Sorry, you get used to talking in codes because of the censors, and it's hard to break the habit. The health crisis of 2020.
The alleged health crisis.
They announced that they had recovered off-world vehicles, and everyone was so caught up in the crescendo of the pandemic that they didn't.
Coincidence or
no coincidences,
or absolutely orchestrated timing.
Absolutely orchestrated. Just went right under the radar. I'm like, hey, any guys, look. People are like, how many deaths today from the? I was like, oh my God,
yeah.
This is
and
this
also
world.
Aliens,
crazy.
Yeah, right.
That's incredible, though. I'm excited about this documentary. I just had a very long conversation with Danny. I love him. He's a national treasure, man. That guy, amazing.
He really is. And you know what amazes me as well, Faust, is the fact that he's not more well known. Like, I mean, for me and you, all of our friends are in this industry, and so anyone that we mention Danny, Sheehan to, oh yeah, Danny, I love Danny. Everyone, he's cool. But I feel like the public needs to see more of Danny and hear more of what he has to say. I've interviewed him a few times for different shows, but with this particular movie, I sat down with him and I'm like, right, like we're doing now. I'm like, I want you to explain in absolute depth and detail exactly what's going on over there in Washington and what happened with David Grush and, and all of it. Yeah. Because you hear snippets, right? Hear this, hear that, catch a podcast, whatever. But I figured I had the source with me, and so he unpacked everything so clearly and articulately. Wow. And even though there's lots of other stars in the movie, like we've got Richard Dolan, Nick Pope, Steve Bassett, you name it, like amazing people. But this testimony from Danny is... It blew my mind. Like the whole time, I'm so embarrassed actually watching back the footage that everyone's going to see. Every 5 minutes, I'm like, what the fuck? It's so like lame. But, that was my honest reaction.
It's great. It's great.
The stuff he says is just so unbelievably mind-blowing. Like,
yes.
I try not to get pissed off with the government because I find it to be a futile exercise. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Storm the Capitol, like I said? Or no, I'm not, But how dare they keep that from us?
Oh my God.
How dare they keep it from us? I get keeping some little things. Do we really need to know everything? No. Like every single minutia? No. But I mean, keeping our origins away from us is just, it's cruelty. It's
It
cruel.
is, and it's a system of control, and they withheld it deliberately for a lot of reasons, and none of them were, you know, in any way for us. They were for personal, corporate,
Yeah.
and selfish, basically draconian interests.
Right.
And that's why we're still driving around gasoline vehicles or
Yeah.
electric, which is older technology than gasoline. Oh, we're going to be electric by 2030. Oh, okay. Wait a minute. We
Yeah.
were
Put this
electric before we
right.
were gasoline, Sherlock Holmes,
Right.
and it
Right.
actually causes more damage. Why are we still driving gasoline cars 100 years later? We have little computers in the palm of our hands every day,
Right.
but we're still driving.
It's so archaic, isn't it? We're
It's
gonna
like,
dig
I
some
mean,
coal out of the ground, and it's like what? Caveman
it's a
stuff.
constant insult to a thinking person's intelligence, that
Right.
this is the,
Okay. Let me ask you a question then about this
yes.
bloody government of ours. So, like my understanding of things, and I'm sure there was stuff that happened before, but my understanding of things is around the 40s. If anyone that's seen Oppenheimer would be very aware of what happened with the atomic bomb. And one of my friends is this woman called Paola Harris, and
Mm-hmm.
she just finished writing a book, making a documentary called Trinity that talks about the philosophy that when that first atomic bomb went off, we'd never had one before, and it was so shocking and so powerful that it sent a ripple off into space and time. And it was felt by them. So they were just flying around minding their own
Yeah.
business. Knew Earth existed, but didn't really give a shit. They've checked in on us every couple hundred years, same, kept going. But then they felt it. And that's when the presence began. Almost instantaneously, craft started to appear. And then we had that crazy second half of the 1940s where Roswell happened, and where so many sightings and things like that happened. And so our government, that was the first time government as we know it tried to cover up the extraterrestrial phenomena as we
Mm-hmm.
know it. Do you think one of two things I think is going on? One, this lie occurred, and then the government after government after government have
Doubling
just
down.
towed the company line and maintained the lie, because are you really going to admit that you lied?
Yeah.
Or do you think that our government right now just really still believe that they should keep it from us? Is it just perpetuating the lie, or is it just new lies every single day because they're just like, I don't give a fuck, we're never admitting it?
Well, I think there's two aspects of that. One is the majority of people, and this is scary, but this is true, who get into the office have gotten that far because of their incredible ability to look the other way and be
Mm.
bought off, and tuck in their moral rectitude and whatever integrity they have. That is the sad part about American politics and the money involved and the corrupting, elements involved in at least our politics. And yours, Australia, New Zealand, you guys, we're all in the same family,
Aussie
Five
politics are the
Eyes,
best. The Aussies
you
don't
know.
really care. Their politics is very simple, like their worldview
Yeah.
is very small. So America sort of wants, their views to be shared with like the entire planet,
Yeah.
which,
I just mean our governments love working together, particularly when it comes to spying on us. And
oh,
it's
that's
so
true too.
ironic that you mentioned Trinity, because I just did a video about the Trinity site and about the women. They were young girls at the time who were exposed to that radiation and then, all developed cancers. And of course,
Yeah.
it's been linked, it's part of the area, and the government never even acknowledged them. Anyway, I think that there's absolutely something to what you said. I've read a lot of books, and I do believe that when this happened, the call went out to the most advanced of these civilizations, these beings who created us. Like, you may want to check on them, like, and
Hmm.
they of course they answered the call. I think the call went out at the highest source, let's say, that
Yeah, because it
if
was
you're going to do
immediate.
something.
It was
Yeah,
immediate. They were
it was
there
immediate.
within hours of it. They didn't mess around,
Yeah,
and then
and
they stuck
Danny,
around.
they did, and they're sticking around because we're like, I mean, just imagine driving by a, pl- a planet, and seeing that not only do they have thousands of thousands of weapons that could utterly render the entire planet inhospitable, destroying every single one of them, except maybe some people who have taken such refuge underground that they're safe from this. And they're all pointed at each other. Like, what must you think of a people that is so fucking confused about what they're doing here, that they've created these weapons and then pointed them at each other, and
I know.
and you know, I can't.
It's just so shocking. I always use the analogy of squirrels. For two reasons. One, I like the word squirrel, but two, everybody's like aware of them, right? They're these cute little critters. Imagine you were walking in the forest and you just saw all these squirrels at war.
Yeah.
Squirrels to the left of us, squirrels to the right of us, all fucking each other up. Like, imagine you'd be standing there and you'd be like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
Like, you're trying to kill your own species. There's all these other animals that are out to get you, but you're trying to kill each other. Like, what? Like, I can't even imagine what they must think. We have 3 wars. Well, there's probably more than that, but 3 major wars going on right now.
2024.
Right now,
campaigns.
3 major wars, bombing each other,
And
killing.
and the same
children.
people doing
What
that
the
are the ones who have kept this truth from the human family. The same people perpetuating these wars are the same people perpetuating the lie about,
Yeah.
gasoline vehicles and they have infiltrated basically every government. So we have let things spiral into a messy situation. And I think, it's just so bad that most people have become so comfortable that they don't even know where to start to unravel it. So they can't even really contemplate, like, how do you fix the complete disaster that is Washington, DC? How do you begin to unravel that knot? You know what I'm saying? People wouldn't know where to start. They know everything is broken. That's clear to anyone who's being honest. But how to fix it?
Well, this is interesting. Like, a lot of people ask me, and I'm sure they ask you as well, why do you do what you do? I do what I do because I feel like whilst there's some noble people out there that are standing up against our government, like Danny and people like that, and fighting for disclosure every day. My good friend Steve Bassett is there on the front lines.
Just talked to him. Yes.
He's amazing, just bashing down every door and doing all of that. But that's for them to do. For me and for people like you as well, I'm trying to fight the other side. I'm trying to question everything and find out what's going on and share any information I have or other people have with everybody else. Because, do we really need disclosure from our government? Fuck our government, I mean, like, these beings and these craft are appearing in our sky all the time. Telepathic communication is happening between people and ETs all the time. Mm-hmm. And I mean in the millions, not thousands, not tens of thousands, in the millions every day. So I guess I'm trying to inspire people to lean into that aspect of it. We don't need their approval. We don't need, them to tell us what's up. It's out there. The government don't need to tell us what color the sky is. We can see it, Absolutely. And it's the same with ETs. We can reach out and we can try and make contact. And if we're lucky, they'll talk
That's
back.
Right. And the truth is, Serena, and this is why I love the work you're doing. It's so important, is that if enough of us do that, and then there will no longer be a need for mm-hmm. these civilizations. These are I think of them like family, because that's the only kind of vibe I've ever gotten, from them, is this familial love, this, and very kind of nurturing and patient. Thank God for their patience. But like, if enough of us did that, then we wouldn't have, I think, what I call it's got to be like a fear factor, because if people are always want to say, why haven't they landed? I'm like, I just told you, we have 5,000 12 kiloton nuclear weapons pointed at each other. And we know each other. What do you think we want to point at them? You know what I mean? And what kind of damage to ourselves would we do trying to defend ourselves once we go into a fear mode, which is what we seem to be really good at.
Like, like visualize it like this. Just say that our technology becomes super advanced in the next 10 years and we're able to fly to Europa, and we've discovered life on there. The sentient beings just like us running around there, millions of them. We fly there, fly to this beautiful moon, and we see this amazing, like we can see the buildings and the infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And as we go lower and lower in our invisible cloaked craft, we can
Mm-hmm.
start to see beings walking around, and they look different from us, but we can tell they're kind of similar. Are we really just going to land? Just as
No,
land
no.
with our being, just like, oh fuck it, let's just land, and then like open the door of our craft and
Decloaking. Yeah.
get out and like be like, what's up? Like,
No.
no, like how terrifying and how like
Yeah.
reckless and like how fraught with danger. Like some people like to really, I guess, glorify some of the extraterrestrials that visit us. And by
Yeah.
glorify, I mean they think that the ETs coming to visit us are the gods of the other planet.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the smartest ones and they're the most important ones. But I'm like, no, not at all. They're probably just like your average regular Joe alien that's hopped into their little craft and they've come down here to have a look around and see what the stupid humans are doing, And
Yeah.
I think that a lot of these alien encounters that people have had, the random ones where craft has landed and they've come out and kind of said hello and buggered
Yeah.
off. I think that it was just curiosity, like the aliens were like, well, we're in a remote forest, these
Yeah.
are clearly the only humans here, why don't we just hop out of the craft for a couple of minutes, say hi, and then
Yeah.
but I think there's definitely a genuine fear factor there that we would have, and of course they should have that, because in particular in America where it's an armed nation. I mean, if you landed in Australia, you probably wouldn't be shot.
Yeah.
If you landed in LA,
Well, yeah, maybe not LA. Well, yeah,
50-50
LA, sure.
chance that you're going to get
it's funny
got.
because the guns, I mean, don't get me wrong. America, we need our guns. As long as we have the government we need our guns.
Right.
That's for sure. Maybe one day when we have a government that is not out, to get us, then we won't need them. Hopefully, there'll come a time on the planet
look,
when
I'm
none of us
not
need
saying
them.
anything about the right or wrongness of gun laws. I'm just saying in
But-
Australia we don't have them, so the
Yeah.
likelihood of an alien getting shot is pretty slim because you can't shoot with something you don't have,
Right.
And I doubt any Aussie's going to go stab an alien to death. You know what I mean?
You go. You get. Yeah.
Right, like
grab
hand-to-hand
a
combat.
pitchfork.
No, But
I
yeah,
hear
like I
you.
think people tend to overthink it and glorify these specific beings. I mean, it's so exciting that they're coming to visit us, but I'm sure that they, just like us, they're filled with rational fear.
Yeah, and I think we've given them plenty of reason to have that. But what I kind of was getting at was, I absolutely agree and believe that these beings have the ability to kind of take the temperature of the planet, so to speak, as far as where we're at, and when you can plug into a planet's consciousness grid, for better or worse.
Could you imagine plugging into our consciousness grid right now?
I can't even imagine.
That is you just depressed me. Like,
I mean, just imagine. But anyway, we're young. You have to remember that we're a young species. At least this part of us, this version of us, is young, right? That's what I tell my kids when I'm teaching my kids, and they learn about one of the many atrocities that we've committed just in modern history. As far as slavery, as far as genocide.
horrifying.
And I'm looking at my 10-year-old, and he's, in shock and welling up with tears because he can't fathom how humans could do this. And I have to be like, listen, you have to realize that in many ways, we don't know better. We don't understand what we're doing to each other. Just like when you were a kid, you would be running around and you knock something over and something breaks, we got to give you a free pass because you didn't know what you were doing, and I feel like that's where we are in a lot of ways. We don't know who we are. We don't know what we're doing here. We're real busy pointing up at the sky and saying, who are they and what are they doing here? Well, we don't even know what we're doing here or how we got here, right? I mean, so we're missing some key knowledge about this reality and about ourselves.
Yeah. We really are. We
But
really are.
I think that the more contact we make, as citizens of this universe, the more people are going to be like, there's nothing to fear. So they'll be able to land, and they won't have to go through, the authority that we've given away, to these governments, because I feel like that's kind of etiquette. That's just etiquette. You know what I mean? Like there's probably a bunch of rules that you have when you're speaking to, planets. You don't just go down and cause chaos. You have to speak to the authority of
Right.
those people. And since we've
Yeah.
given our authority away to freaking governments, they go and they talk to the worst of us, the people in government. That's unfortunate. But again, that's in part our fault.
It's interesting when you say they, because I hear that a lot of the time. They. I've been very privileged over the last couple of years to speak to a lot of different people. People that say that they've been abducted or that they've
Yeah.
been had face to face contact with extraterrestrials. That's actually becoming more and more prevalent. By the way, abduction, meaning taken from your room and up into a craft,
Hmm.
is happening a lot less seemingly, and what's happening a lot more is contact happening in your room or wherever you are, but not just for a second, like meaningful contact, information exchange, experiments done, but on Earth rather than
Sure.
being beamed up. But I probably talked to over 1,000 people now. So I've heard a lot of different stories. I've spoken to famous people like Whitley Strieber, who was the muse for the movie Communion. Um, and then just
Wow.
regular people like you and I. And one thing that's well, two things that have really stuck out for me. One is that they is a very broad term. There's so many different species that seem to
Yeah.
be visiting us, and they look different. They're from different places, and they all have different agenda. So some of the beings, in particular these greys that we've talked about for a long time, tend to come and have contact experiences. So they're not taking you up on a craft; they just come to talk, or telepathically
Yeah.
communicate. And they are here to sort of bring calm upon the human race and to reassure them that when they do come, that it's not in a combative nature, but it's to come, to further like communications between like different species. I find that extremely interesting. There are some malevolent ones, some that do
Yeah.
come not to hurt a human out of malice, but they will do what they need to do to get
Right.
what they want, come what may.
Yeah.
Nobody, everyone laughs about the whole anal probe
Yeah.
analogy. So I sat down with Whitley Strieber and I sort of said I brought it up in jest. Oh, is it true that
Right.
you were and I felt so bad straight after because he
Oh.
said, Serena, I was raped.
Oh my
I
God.
was sexually abused. I was raped. Somebody put something inside me against my will. It hurt. It still hurts me to this day. So like
Jeez.
there's so many different things that are happening with them. And it's important, I think, for people to note that they do come from different places and they do have different agendas. And you wonder which ones have been in contact with the government and
Yeah.
which ones have not. Like there's just
And that's the other thing that
so
they're
much going
hiding, I
on.
think, and that they're afraid will come out. The fact that the there's a lot of talk, about kind of the different approach, like the first approach that was, I think it was Truman, I think was the first one. And, the negotiation was about technology, knowledge, and you disarming, not going down this path of splitting the atom in a way that for weapons, for
Mhm.
nukes,
Mhm.
what would become nukes. And of course, Truman was owned. He was put in power by the Rockefellers, by the corporate interests, and he wasn't about to say yes to anything he didn't have permission to say yes to. And then I heard there was another deal struck, which allowed us not only to keep our weapons, but would allow us, a slow drip technology from these people
Mm.
if they allowed the abduction, and I think that
To
I even,
continue.
yeah, well, and they
Mm.
had a quota, right? But so they gave permission to one of these civilizations to take X amount of people from the United States. And I think that they said that, 99.9% chance they would be returned unharmed. They probably wouldn't
Mm,
remember much.
mm.
And it turned out that, well, there was people who were just going missing, and then, and again, it's impossible to prove this. I mean, there's been documents come out, but of course they're always just called fakes, and but it was said that as soon as this deal went through, other ET races who did not have any kind
Permission.
of qualms about took advantage of this,
Hmm.
and were
Hmm.
swooping down and taking people, sometimes
Hmm.
bringing them back, sometimes not, but that's when everything revved up, and they were like, what's going on? And so they felt fucked over by this deal they made.
Even though it was
And that's why
another.
they were like, shoot them the fuck down. You know what I mean? We're no longer in good standing with them. They
Right.
fucked us over. They're taking Americans. Shoot them down, take their fucking technology. So then it became a free for all, and I think it's remained a free for all for the most part ever since, and that's why we have thousands of crash retrievals. There's been thousands of bodies, and it's a
Right.
mess. If people knew,
Well, the abductees, it's odd, right? Because, and you'll see some of these interviews that I've done come out soon. I've got a show coming out on Unified TV called The Abductees. Real creative titles,
nice.
Serena. Real creative.
Did you think of that one?
What should we call
No,
it?
no,
It's about
it's
abductees. What
perfect.
should
I
we
mean,
call it?
some
The
things are a little.
abductees. Um, right, but it's interesting because they talk about, like, they tell these horrific stories, taken up in a craft, can't move, can't speak,
Mm,
probe, all these different things happening to them, sperm extraction and eggs. That's like a really big
yeah,
thing, right? I'm like, aren't you mad? Aren't you furious? Like, how does this make you feel about these beings that have done this to you? If it was a human that did this to you, holy shit,
yeah,
right? But they all say, all of them, that they, even though they hated it, and it pissed them off, and they got PTSD from it, and it's affected their lives so much, they don't hate them because they understand why they were doing it,
mm,
and they believe in the why. So whatever they've been told, which most of the time is either that we need your DNA to help save our people,
yeah,
or we need your DNA because we're trying to create some sort of hybrid race to perpetuate humanity
right,
in the event of a cataclysm or something like that, and that this has been done many times before, case which could well be our origin story, I don't know.
mm,
And so even though they don't like the experience, they're like, but I get it. It's sort of like if your child needed a kidney,
yeah,
like you don't really want to chop your kidney out, but like you do it with no regrets
right,
because you saved your child, right? So I think a lot of it is about that. They're not just, it's not an evil thing that they're doing. We're just going to take bodies and mess with them. No,
right.
there's purpose.
And I think that's been the case from the word go. I think there's,
Mm,
with the exception of probably a few rogue, because I do believe wholeheartedly that our planet is underprotected, that we are under the watchful eye of
right.
some
We're special.
incredible,
We're
because
special. We're special.
this wasn't our idea. So to leave us, kind of wide open to any, not that I believe that there's a lot of marauding space, civilizations out there. I believe that there probably are, but they only get so far, because
Hmm.
that mentality is a much slighter evolution than beings who have been here a long time, and so they're not going to be able to trump the technology of these more advanced civilizations who have
Right.
gone past this plunder and rape
Well, and,
mindset
and
that.
also they're not just like all extraterrestrial races are not just interested in one other race,
Right.
humans. They're interested in each other as well. So just because that's happening, these things are happening to us, what's to say that they're not happening, between all the hundreds of thousands of species that are out there. Like, the
Yes.
mind boggles. We've got like earthbound reality, and then we have like galaxy bound reality, then we have like universe bound reality, and like there's all these realities, and we don't realize it, what's going on there, but we're a part of all of it. And it's
Yes.
it's just so interesting.
It's amazing, and
I
and
hope
and
one day we'll have a little bit more information than we have right now.
me too.
I feel so
Me too.
dumb.
Maybe a little. I mean, a little bit of confirmation or validation about what's what. I mean, I do. You do get a sense that and then science, of course, starts to back this up with some recent findings about panspermia or whatever they call it.
Mm,
The fact that life here has been seeded, in
right.
a very real way. You can be on the nose with it and say, yeah, it was meteors, or you can look at the species and then learn about the lore, and like, well, why would they evolve to have bipedals? Well, when something works in nature, we see
Mm,
it working, across the board.
hmm.
So, I mean, we have the plutonic solids to study and see how geometry forms matter in this universe. And if that's not an Earth thing, that's a
Universal
galaxy thing.
thing.
As far as we
Exactly.
know, we can
Right.
we can study crystals that come from meteors and say, hey, look, they're made the same way. So it's like
Right.
there has to be a blueprint. So I
Well,
don't
and there
buy the
is, I mean,
fact.
like just like keeping it really simple, looking at like our solar system, like a sun. Our sun is a star. When we look up in the sky, all we see is stars. All of those stars have planets and moons revolving around them. They revolve in exactly the same way. Like we are not alone,
Yeah.
like what's going on over here is going on everywhere. And the only reason we don't know about it yet is because our telescopes are still shit and our
Yeah.
flying machines are still basic. But
Well, the ones we
10,
have,
20
the
years
ones
from
we know
now,
about.
right, right.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Yeah.
every single day, like we're discovering more and more exoplanets. For those that don't know, an exoplanet is a planet like us that's able to sustain life. We're not able to see. We can see the planets, and we can see that they have plants and tree and like organic life, and that they have
Hmm.
rivers and oceans. But we can't zoom in enough yet to see if there's any buildings on there or any
No.
people on there. We're so close. We're so
Yeah.
close. We're on the precipice of discovery.
Yeah. And
10 more
and
years. We'll get
I
there.
mean, it just makes you wonder. I listen. I'm one thing I am sure about, and I think it's anybody who looks into this and studies it will tell you that this is really incontrovertible if you look at the evidence. The fact that there's been a secret space program, more than one, for decades and decades.
Hmm.
And that we are going out into space, and that we are traversing, not only just our solar system, but really, in a lot of ways, we're in. I mean, of course, we're America. We're in business, in other galaxies. I mean, not other galaxies, but other solar systems at the very least. And you
Hmm.
see that. I watch the United States pass laws like that say, oh, and anybody who is the CEO of a space mining corporation, they won't have to. Their labor laws will not go into effect for their employees, so they can't be charged with mistreating them. And I'm like, that passed. We can't even get
Right.
fucking everything that you want to get past is like, I mean, it's
Forget
100
about it.
years before
Right.
it goes
Right.
anywhere. And the kind of the government was set up for that, a little bit, but I was like, this made it through. What fucking CEO? I mean, this just tells you that
Right.
it's already happening. It's
Mhm.
already happening, or else it would have never gone through. They don't pass hypotheticals in fucking in DC. Everything is like, I mean, glacial isn't the word. We can't get anything
Right.
passed quickly. I was like, so that's just more validation that they have craft, they have a secret space program, and it's basically every country that you can think of, at least compartmentalized, that are in league together, and then you have
But
corporations
again,
and
I think it's like what we were saying before about how, like, I'm not relying on our government for disclosure.
yeah,
Fuck that. We're going to have to do disclosure ourselves, right? And make communication ourselves and share that knowledge. I think it's the same with the space race, with talking about space programs. Like, love him or hate him, Elon Musk is a fucking legend because this man has created an independent
yeah,
space program and he's going out there. He's told the entire world that didn't know that there are amazing minerals on asteroids, and if we could capture some of those, then we would fix so many problems here on Earth
yeah,
with the energy crisis. He's planning on landing on one of those. And,
yeah,
Elon is the only one that we really know now, but give it another 5 years, another 10 years, another 20 years, there's going to be 20 Elons out there doing that, and it's basically taking away the prestige of it from the government
Yeah.
that say they're the only ones that can go and land on the moon. Well, no, bullshit. We can go and build one of these things out in the Nevada desert and go and
Yeah.
do it ourselves. I feel like,
It's
unfortunately, it's going to have to come from the rest of humanity and not from our governments,
yeah.
these discoveries.
I mean, certainly the discoveries and also what's been hidden. You know, it's gonna take
Right.
an act of the people, and that's what Danny's trying to do. And you know, I think Danny spent most of his life, you know, working behind the scenes, and now he's realizing that it's going to be more beneficial for the movement if he starts to step more in front of the scenes and
Correct.
speak. And I love that he realizes that, and he's, you know, got the New Paradigm Institute that he's
Oh,
put
the work he's
forth.
doing
And
with the New Paradigm Institute
yeah,
is just incredible, you know, and like now having a university course where you
that's
can
what we
actually
need. Yeah,
go and get a degree in ufology. I
it's
mean,
fucking
wow,
awesome. It's so cool.
wow, that's progress. It's
Yes,
huge.
it is. It is a precedent, and it's progress. It's amazing. You know,
Yeah.
um, it's great. It's very important, and that's going to be, I think, the only way we get to a point where, you know, maybe these governments will just be like, well, they already fucking know everything anyway now. You know what I mean?
Well, but that is what I think will happen. You know,
Yeah.
like the more socially acceptable it becomes. Like, you know, 10 years ago, if you said that you believed in extraterrestrials, people would think you were an idiot. When I first started my career in Hollywood, I had a talk show where I interviewed really massive celebrities. You know, and my agent said to me, he's like, "Don't go down this rabbit hole with
Right.
ETs. Like, if you do that, everyone's going to think you're a freak, and you'll lose your reputation and your credibility. You know, but for me, I don't give a fuck.
Right.
I was going to do it no matter what. But also, it wasn't true
Hmm.
because it's socially acceptable to say it now. And now, if
Yeah.
you say that you've seen a UFO, people don't think you're crazy. They're like, really?
Yeah.
Tell me everything. Like, what did it look like? Where was it? How can I see one? You know, like there's definitely been a shift,
Yeah.
a big
Definitely.
shift. I think
Yeah.
now if you say that there is no extraterrestrial life, people think you're an idiot.
It's amazing that they didn't before, but yeah,
Right.
you know,
No,
you're
but they
right.
didn't.
You're right.
They didn't. Like if you've went back to the 80s, like there is no one that would
Oh
go on the
yeah.
record saying they believed in
No,
aliens. Ever.
the
Ever.
propaganda was real. I mean, and you were destroyed. I mean, they were
Yeah.
destroying
Character suicide.
high-ranking military people who were coming out and
Right.
saying. So, what do you think they would do to you? You know, I mean, it was the propaganda was real. I think the argument these days is not whether there's a life out there; it's whether life is visiting us here. You know, people, if
Yeah,
you're tied
exactly. Are
up
these
into,
contact stories true? Are
yeah,
these pictures
is
true?
everyone
And, you know,
crazy? I
like
mean, like, what do you really think? Everybody, like, millions of fucking people are just crazy. They just have no grip on reality. They're making
yeah,
things
nothing better
up.
to do than just to talk shit about flying saucers.
Well, I
Yeah, it's
mean, what the
interesting.
fuck?
I actually live in Beverly Hills. I'm in Beverly Hills right now, and Beverly Hills is basically in Los Angeles, and it's the coolest city in the like. It's got a lot of problems, let me tell you, but it's the
Yeah,
coolest city in the world because pretty much everyone here believes, and they
awesome.
believe because we keep seeing stuff. Celebrities are coming forward in absolute droves, sporting stars, even government officials. Like we're
Wow.
so lucky in this town because it's a town where everything's kind of like acceptable and kind of cool. And so we get to have these conversations about ETs every single day. And I can't wait until that spreads out to the rest of the world, you know,
Yeah.
because I live in a world where I can have conversations about ETs and UFOs and the government and everything that's going
Hmm.
on every day. And it fills my heart and my life with so much joy. But I know that for many of your viewers around the world that's not the case. And the only thing I can say to them people is just keep talking. If you
Yeah.
believe in it, share it.
Yep. Don't be
If you
scared
believe in
because
it, share it.
then it
Don't give a
becomes
shit about what
the
people
new
think,
norm.
you know,
Yeah,
because if we don't
absolutely.
share it, it's not going to get out there. It's just
No,
not.
and the stigma has fallen. You know, but I mean, there's a few holdouts. Always going to be a few holdouts, but for the most
That's
part, you
okay.
know, I
That's
mean,
okay.
my twin brother got my dad. I think my dad's going to be. He's 78. He got my dad to read a book about UFOs.
Oh
That,
my
you
god.
know, I mean, he's a product
What
of
did
like
your dad say at the end? Was he like, "Well,
he was
son"?
he was just like I'm reading that book your brother. He didn't say much, but it was a good book.
He's like, "Did
I think
something
I'm the one
happen
that
to
put him
you
up
when
to
you were younger? Like
it.
when we were at the cabin?" Like,
Yeah, crazy.
no, dad.
It's great though. You know, I
Have
wanted
you
to
had
ask
any
you.
experiences? Like, have you had
Well,
any?
so I've been on Dr. Greer's So of course I have, yeah. So I
Oh,
was
so have
doing
you done a C5, like a proper,
I
like hardcore, did the
well, I
Peugeot?
didn't go. So my twin brother has gone on the 7-day retreat,
Right.
which I'm is just I think probably like a bonanza of sightings and just incredible experiences. I can't even imagine. I've only gone on 3-day on the weekends,
Mhm.
and even that was just I mean something that I
What
will
did you
never forget.
experience?
So it was our first night out there, and so let me be clear. Even though I believe in this so firmly, I've never actually seen with my own eyes anything that I could call a UFO.
Right.
I've connected through meditation and like I've been in plant ceremony where things have happened. And of course I
You've had a glimpse, but you
yeah
haven't had a,
I've
you
glimpsed
know,
that helps. I'm more sure than ever, even having never saw one. But I went, and to be honest, I didn't. I was not attached to seeing anything. I love meditating. I've come to love meditating. So I was happy to sit in the desert under the stars and meditate, no matter what.
right.
But I
There's such
did
community in it, right? Like it's beautiful,
absolutely.
right?
It is
Yeah.
so beautiful and so good for you and the planet,
Mm,
um, and to do it in such a gorgeous place in Arizona.
right.
I'm fine with that. I'll travel a great distance to enjoy that time. But also part of me, and this may be just me, I never doubted for a second we were going to see things. I just had a
Mm,
feeling, I mean, my
mm.
intuition was like, yeah, we're going to, I don't know. Maybe it was just me, but so we're meditating, and then a friend I'm sitting next to who is definitely very connected and a little clairvoyant with all things UFO. Like she has so many sightings in her life. I'm always like, you are like a mecca, man. What do you do over there? She lives, I think, in Wisconsin, which is crazy. But so she's like, she kind of gives me a little elbow, and she's pointing in over there, and I'm like, there's nothing over. Everyone is facing this way, and she's like,
Mm.
look that way, and I'm like, everyone's looking this way. Okay, I'm like, I don't know. There's nothing there. And then all of a sudden, these blue lights. I would say they they couldn't have been more than 50 yards from where we were sitting, and they were to the right, and they started to flicker, and then it seemed like there was a craft on the ground like the whole time, and it just kind of came online, and then and I was like, what? And of course, so we once I saw like there was that absolutely something there and something happening, like these blue lights were coming online, and then they were coming online around this craft, and what? But then like everyone caught wind of it, or they started to see it, and then everyone stood up, my view was like completely blocked from it, but we were definitely the
Yeah.
first people to saw it, and it was right. It was so
Wow.
close. And Dr.
Wow.
Greer did tell us, don't forget there may be one. They're not always in the air. Sometimes they're already on the ground.
Right.
I've heard him say that, but I
And quite
never
often they're
imagined.
interdimensional as well. So they're
Yeah,
kind of like it's more hologrammy than like solid.
yeah.
You know,
Then
it's kind of
physically,
50% of that, isn't it? It's strange, kind of like it's there, kind of like a ghost almost. That's how I
yeah.
kind of
It's
describe it.
trans. They're absolutely transdimensional. I think that
Right.
they have to be to get here anyway. Um, but
Well, you have to come out to LA and do a C5 with me and the gang. We've got a
I would
gang
love
that get
to.
together. We've got like Michael Mazzola, Adam Curry, you probably know him, Tyler Zaradnik,
I know
like
Adam. Yeah,
Jim Martin. We all get together and we do C5s, and we've got these different modalities that we use because we've done it so many times. So
yeah.
we kind of don't do Dr. Greer's method anymore. Dr. Greer's method, by the way, is
Oh
amazing,
yeah,
and
yeah.
to me, he's like the pioneer of this whole thing. I never would have even considered doing it without him, but we've evolved it.
Yeah,
As everybody does as they go through.
as you
So,
should.
so there's a method that me and my friends use that works really well. Do you want me to share it with you? It's really
Yeah, I
cool.
really want. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So we kind of this is what we do. So first of all, we go out and we sit somewhere where you can see all of the stars. It's not about the stars per se, but it's about having a nice dark sky, because
Hmm.
sometimes these craft, when they appear, they're not particularly bright. So you kind of want to, like, if you're in a city, it's a little bit harder to kind of see anomalies in the sky because there's so much light pollution. So a lot of people think it's you have to be somewhere remote because they don't want to be seen by anyone else. We don't think it's got anything to do with that. It's just more, it's easier for you to see if you're in a darker area. But anyway, so what we like to do is we look up at, first of all, we like to hang out with each other for about half an hour to an hour and just vibe and just love each other and care for each other and, catch up on things and just make sure that the mood of everyone that's turned up is good. Everyone's in a good mood.
Hmm.
Everyone's chill. Everyone's relaxed. People don't realize this, but hanging out with your closest friends is a form of meditation, because you're letting go of all the outside thoughts that you have that stress you out every day, and you're just honing in on the love space,
And you're getting
and
everyone in sync,
camaraderie.
and entrained
Exactly.
together. Yes.
You're coming in sync, your energies are all in sync, you're all laughing, you're all having a good time. So when everyone's feeling kind of relaxed and kind of chill, we like to sort of sit down in a circle for no reason other than we can all see each other. And also circles are good because if something's happening over there, I'll see it. But if something's
Hmm.
happening over there, he'll see it. So a circle kind of gives you like the full breadth of the sky. And then normally one of us will do a really short meditation just for a few minutes. And the meditation normally is just more about putting love out into the universe. So I like to do what I call a gratitude circle, where we kind of go around the circle and we sort of say what we're really grateful for, and something that's happened to us that we're really happy about. Because again, it's all about the vibration of love and
Yeah,
being
it's
able to
heart
put
opening.
love out into the universe. So you see what I mean? You don't need to be a brilliant meditator. You just need to be
No.
able to engage and hone in on what you're doing. So after we've done that, then one of us will pick three stars in the sky, three stars that are making a triangular kind of shape. And that's not hard. I mean,
Yeah.
all of them are out there. There's hundreds of triangles, but you pick one and you make sure that everyone's looking at the same triangle. We all make sure that we're looking in the same spot. Then what we like to do is look inside the triangle in the sky and try and just imagine that it's that you can see through the blackness to the other side. And when you look through to the other side, you can see craft just flying around, and however your imagination imagines it, just imagine it, right? And so you see all these craft flying around and you look at one of them in particular and you're like, come through this portal, come through
Hmm.
these three stars and appear, you know? And then we just
Yes.
fixate on that one area. And more often than not, we see something. So that's kind
Intention.
of how we do it.
Shared
Um,
intention with an open heart. That's how
Shared
you
intention
do
and an
it.
open heart in a group that are experiencing the emotion of love. That's
That's
it. And when we're communicating, all that we say is like, we don't think it's constructive to say, "Hi, I'm here. Can you please come through and show me that you exist? Because I need to know that you're
right.
real. Like now, please come on." No. So we like to say, in our mind, we like to say things like, "We love you, and we'd love to reconnect with our star brothers and sisters, and we hope that you can see us, and we're offering ourselves up to you so you can see us. Can you see our little campfire?
Hmm.
Can you see our little torches? Can you see us? We want you to see us, and then if you feel comfortable, we'd love to see you." And that's kind of how we do it. So we
That's
just,
amazing.
no demands,
Right.
just chill. Yeah, and it
I,
works so incredibly well.
I'm sure it works. So, and that's one of the questions I wanted to kind of close with.
Sure.
I know it works because I know the power of a coherent heart and mind, and then multiplied that when it's in a group of people. I've seen and
Hmm.
been party to incredible things that happen when people realize how powerful it is if they understand that from here comes a signal, and when it's in harmony with this, it's then you are truly accessing your divine birthright, which is this intergalactic, royal, amazing, human DNA that we
Connection,
have, that we're
right?
blessed with. And you had a chance to experience this with Dr. Greer, and learn more about it, and learn more about how in a very real way that puts out a signal, and they can pick up on that signal. They can even pick up on, where you may be in physical space. And I was wondering what else you learned with your time with Dr. Greer about going within, and about the power of that and meditation.
what's interesting with him, and his story. So, when I had the opportunity to actually sit down with him and interview him, I asked him about how it all began for him. And even though like he was a believer and he'd seen things, he was actually one day taken up aboard a craft. And
Yeah.
when he was on this craft, he developed all of the protocols with them. So they said that they were willing to be seen and to communicate. And they developed, I guess, this type of method or language where he could reach out to
Like
them
a
and ask them to come, and then they would be
vectoring.
able
Yeah.
to. And I guess that's been the basis for what happened with CE5 and why he was able to do it and to teach it to people. But I definitely feel like that was sort of like his gift and his method, and that was kind of given to him, And it definitely, the process has definitely evolved over the years and through the many different people that do it. And, prior to Dr. Stephen Greer doing CE5 was being done all around the world by shamans and by many other meditators and people for many years. It just wasn't something that was brought to light. And so he's really a hero of mine for being able to share that information with the world in a way that they would actually embrace it. Because I think if someone else were to be the spokesperson for CE5 in the beginning, and I'm sure there have been people that have done it, no one really would have listened. It took this straight shooting,
Doctor,
analytical,
emergency room doctor.
scientist,
Yeah.
doctor guy. Like his personality, if you meet him, like he's friendly, but he's stern as
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
He's
No, he's
got
no
this
nonsense.
6'3", hardcore. Like he's nearly 70, but he's got like a body like
Big
the
shoulders,
Rock,
big chest,
yeah,
still lifts.
And it's like they really picked this sort of strong, powerful, masculine energy to kind of like push through and make people listen. But I think now that people have listened, it's just opened up a whole world for other practitioners and for other people to kind of get involved with it. I do think that sometimes people, I think that his methods can be a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
Even watching my movie Contact, where the first half of it is us going on the expedition and filming him doing all of that stuff. And like after making that movie, I was disappointed with myself in a way, because the more that I got into CE5, the more I realized that you don't need to do all that.
Yeah.
Like if you do go and do all of that, that's cool and it's great and you're going to see stuff. But I find that some people think it's a little bit daunting. Like who the hell has friends and like a big group of friends and has
who
money?
could call up and be like, hey, well, what are
Right.
you doing on Saturday night?
And then if you have the friends, who's got the money? Like most of us are, like some of us have money, some of us are broke as shit, like how are we going to all travel to Arizona? Like I worried when I made that film that people would think that this is what you have to do.
Right.
And if you don't do this, you can't experience it. But like I really want to share with people that that's not the case. And if you really want to, you can go out on your own, flying solo in your backyard. And if you can focus enough, they'll come.
I did it in Manhattan when I lived in Manhattan on top of my building.
Oh, really? Yes. That would have been beautiful, though.
When I first found out about these, I was so excited. Because
yeah, me too.
I had been looking for a way to make like to make physical contact, and so when I learned about them, I was like, oh, I'm so practicing this and doing this. I don't care if I'm sitting on my Upper East Side Manhattan roof.
Yeah, you're just gonna go do it. Totally.
But you don't. So everyone who's listening, listen. You could do it from your backyard, especially if you live
it all the time.
In a place that doesn't have a lot of light pollution. It's more difficult in the city where I was doing it like a fool. I couldn't see anything probably if they showed up right on top of me, but I didn't really care. I was having a good time. Anyway,
right.
But
most often they're orbs of light as well. Like people think, oh, well, if I live in the city, a UFO is not going to turn up. And, true, but I've never actually seen a flying saucer. I've never seen a disc-shaped craft. They normally, like 90% of what's seen is orbs, big orbs of light. Initially, when you see them, you're like, is that an airplane? No. Okay, maybe it's a satellite. You pull out your little satellite app. No, it's not. Satellites just move like this.
Yeah.
They don't fuck around. They're just pretty chill.
There's no...
It's when you see this...
Yeah. You see the movement.
Then that's when you know. But
right.
that's why like these things can appear over the city because they're pretty incognito. Like
Yeah.
unless you're staring up at the sky and then you suddenly become transfixed by an orb and you follow it, no one's going to notice. Unfortunately, people aren't looking up.
Yeah. No, I know they
The
never do.
bulk of people are just looking forward or looking down. So,
Or their
that they'll
phone.
appear anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only
No,
place that
they will.
we've found that they won't appear is in a fly zone. So if you're
Yeah.
somewhere where there's a lot of helicopters, like constantly all night, or there's a lot of aeroplanes and things like that, they tend not to appear there. I don't know if that's because they don't want to like interfere with craft,
Yeah.
or if they don't want to be picked up on radar. Because anywhere
Probably
you
both.
see
Yeah.
an aeroplane, it's being followed by a radar. Um, that's the only time I found that forget it.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to try it around that, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. And it's probably a little bit of both. I do think they have to. There's so many ways I think for them to appear. I connected one time when I was in the city, and it was all it was. I was remote viewing this craft, and it happened like I was in a total void. I wasn't asleep, but I was deep in a meditation because there was nothing, baby. It was just sweet black nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, clear as day, I saw this silvery craft in my vision. Like I went from nothing to just one thing, and then bam, it was gone. And my eyes shot open. I was like, "What the?" Like I was shocked. I was floored. And I knew that was the best that I was going to get for where I was and what was going on. And I was very, very happy with it. It was amazing. It was life changing.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Can you hang on for 1 second? Because my thing's going to die. I just need to plug it in and then we can wrap up.
Absolutely.
But
Okay.
I'm on 5% and I think I've pulled it out of the wall. Sorry, 1 second.
No worries.
Yep, I did. All right. Yep, I'm good.
Cool. No worries.
Sorry.
So listen, if Serena, follow her on Instagram. Tell everyone on the social platforms they can find you on if they want to keep up with your work. And you can, if you are subscribed to Gaia, which you should be, or Unified, absolutely watch Serena's programs. They're awesome. I've seen almost all of them. Looking forward to the ones coming out, especially the one I just learned about.
Thank you.
With Danny Sheehan. Absolutely.
Yeah,
and I got to get out to LA.
The big thing that we have at the moment is I've opened up my own distribution company called Ad Astra Distribution. And that company now represents all of the biggest UFO producers in the world. So people from Dr. Stephen Greer to James Fox, Jeremy Corbell. It's so exciting. So if you're on Instagram, go to Ad Astra Distribution and give us a like. Basically, because we're now looking after all of the biggest producers in the industry, it's the number one place where you can go to actually see any trailers, any B-side, B-roll kind of like information, any interviews that you might have missed. And also Spark TV is a new platform that we're about to launch, which will be the same thing. It's going to be a home for all of the UFO and ET and paranormal enthusiasts to watch never before seen content, including lots of sightings, lots of CE5s, lots of really cool stuff. So they're the two to follow. They're new and they're exciting, and we're really trying to like create a new space online where people can go to see all of the cool stuff, including this interview, if you'll allow me to post it, Faust.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't see why.
And my Instagram is I am Serena DC.
Absolutely. I want to remind you that I've produced 5 feature films of varying budgets. So I'm also a producer, and while these two worlds have only collided kind of in a little bit for now, I am absolutely at your disposal. So
amazing.
Give me a call if I can help in any way, if the right project comes up.
Definitely. I'll actually give you a call later on because there's some stuff that we definitely want to talk to you about. Cool. And I just really want to thank you for doing this podcast. Like quite often podcast hosts are a thankless group of people. You do the research and you work so hard and you share so much with our community. and expect very little in return. So thank you so much for like
You're
creating a
welcome.
platform like this where we can talk and share these super important ideas. And
Absolutely.
you're the
And
best, man.
it's very important work that you're doing. And, you know, it's awesome to meet you because I've seen and heard so much about you, and you're doing very important work. And, you know, a lot of your friends have become my friends as well, with Adam
Yeah.
and Michael and Mike,
Yeah.
Danny. And so my love to them, my love to you. Thank you so much
Thank you.
I know how busy you are. So I'm going to let you go, but I
No
appreciate your time
problem.
very much.
Thanks so much. Take care.
You too. Take
Peace,
care.
everyone.
Bye.